everyone, I'm Seungah. Today I'm going to talk about challenges in data collection for waste diversion based on a case study. Firstly, I want to introduce why waste diversion is important. Every year, a huge amount of C&D waste is generated, causing tremendous environmental and economic problems. Waste diversion is one solution, redirecting materials from landfills by reducing, reusing, and recycling waste. Although waste reduction is most environmentally friendly, waste is often unavoidable or economically infeasible to reduce. Therefore, we need to balance between economic and environmental impacts to make more effective decisions. In this waste diversion assessment process, as many previous studies have shown, data is the key. Despite its importance, existing literature has been focused on adopting waste diversion in practice, assuming that data are already available, or they analyze general challenges, not specifically on the data collection process. Therefore, this study aims to identify data collection challenges during the waste diversion assessment using a real-world building demolition project as a case study. The case study project is the Urban Center Demolition Project. ERC is a large arena located on the UT Austin campus in Texas, originally built in 1977 and demolished from 2023 to 2024. In order to explore data collection challenges and accordingly recommend strategies, we first identified the data requirements for economic and environmental analysis for three waste diversion methods of three materials, namely doors, ceiling tiles, and carpet tiles. Data sources should be defined based on data requirements and availability of each of the three materials for 5 different data types, including quantity, economic impact of landfilling, recycling, and reuse, as well as environmental impact. Starting with waste quantity, unit-based quantity takeoff is conducted. Matching the unit of the waste with the following analysis is the most critical requirement. Converting the unit might be inevitable. This quantity information can be retrieved from existing documents such as waste tickets or waste management plans. With BIM models, quantity takeoff can be easily automated. Another option is simply manual QTO. And for your information, more details can be found in paper and references. And the case study, except for the doors manually counted from 2D drawings, those of the ceiling tiles and carpet tiles were extracted from readily available documents. Assessing the economic landfilling cost requires disposal charges and labor costs, which can be collected from adjacent landfills for more project-specific information. Or you can use a tool from the US EPA, which calculates all costs but not in detail. In the case study, since we know the project details, we use dumping costs scrapped from the landfilling website. For recycling, basic recycling charges and transportation costs are needed, considering material types, regional characteristics, and whether the data are accessible or not. These data can be collected from web pages. Another possible source is a product-specific recycling program operated by manufacturers. Ceiling tiles, for example, have a program by Armstrong. We use their program to collect details about ceiling tile recycling, whereas general web scrap data for the others. Economic cost assessment for reuse requires cost data regarding transportation, installation, and resale, which can also be Googled or on secondary market platforms like Replay. The case study used information provided by a deconstruction company's website. In addition to economic cost, the environmental impact should be evaluated. We need environmental product declaration, in short EPDs, that include the unit global warming potential of all relevant life cycle stages. Here we define the relevant stages. Since our interest is waste diversion, we focus on the current end-of-life and beyond phases. Additionally, if landfill, all early stages are included as a new product will be produced to replace the original. For the recycled materials, only the last remanufacturing impact is included. Although we could not find the exact match for each product, we searched for the equivalent EPDs of doors and tiles for the case study. Based on this data collection exercise, we identified three major data collection challenges. The first is isolated data management. Due to a poor documentation plan in the earlier life cycle, it becomes more challenging to retrieve essential information later. General project documents, BIM models, inventories, and specifications are often not available for all demolition buildings, or without details or badly organized, making it more difficult to search. Even waste tickets, a document generated for waste management, only include a limited range of information, such as material classification like simply wood or trash or weight, not even a count or area. Another challenge is the propagation of uncertainty. There are numerous variables in the waste diversion assessment process, filtered according to the target level of the assessment detail, and each variable has its own uncertainty. These uncertainties do not stand alone but affect each other, multiplying the ambiguity. Accordingly, to restrict the uncertainties to a certain level, the allowable range of uncertainty for each variable should be clearly defined in advance. The last challenge is the lack of guidelines and standards. Due to the limited number of experienced experts, people who assess waste diversion need guidance from standards or centralized data repository. However, those do not exist or are inaccessible. Since these challenges impede the adoption of waste diversion, we propose the following strategies to facilitate the waste diversion assessment process. The first recommendation is to use a comprehensive waste management plan, WMP, to integrate data management and limit the uncertainties. Requiring the submission of WMP in the early design phases will enable waste-related thinking throughout the project and standardized terminologies, enhancing the communication. The second recommendation is to restructure the post-reporting framework to more explicitly describe waste data. For example, waste diversion type from simply landfill versus others to reuse, recycling, and landfill. In the case of the material category, adding plastic, furniture, or others to the current metal, concrete, masonry, and wood classification system will be helpful. Linking items with BIM models will be even better. Another improvement can be advancing the legislation. To execute the strategies rather than just leaving it in a theory, the C&D ordinance can motivate the implementation. These movements have already been actively ongoing in multiple states and cities like California and Colorado Boulder. Finally, an enhanced certification program can further motivate waste diversion with societal and financial benefits by providing constructive instructions. Updated LEED certification is also designed to include material reuse. In response to the growing need for quantitative waste diversion assessment, we analyzed the practical data collection challenges, expecting it to serve as a guideline and practical tip for future data collection. Still, it is limited to a single case study, and we are planning to expand this research to other buildings in the future, so please stay tuned. These are the references and acknowledgements. Thank you for listening, and please feel free to contact me via email or LinkedIn. Thank you.